Hey guys, welcome to the third video of the MongoDB crash course. In this video, we'll be connecting to our MongoDB Atlas cluster programmatically with the help of the Mongoose npm package, which is an ODM library.
Now, ODM stands for Object Data Model, which is just a way of modeling your data based on the concept of OOPS or object oriented programming. Using the methods that are available in a model object, we can directly perform operations because those methods will be directly translated to their respective database queries. So, the methods that will be exposed by these model objects will allow us to make direct changes to our database. Now, as I said, we'll be using Mongoose, and Mongoose is one such ODM package that can be used for connecting MongoDB with Node.js. Now, there are other ODMs available too, but in the community of MongoDB, Mongoose is more popular, and that's the one which I'll be using for the purpose of this course. So, Mongoose does the job of handling relationships between documents, provides additional schema validation by allowing us to define a clear schema for each collection, and then obviously does the main job of translating between data model object methods, which are written in JavaScript, to actual database queries. Now, why do we want to go ahead with an ODM like Mongoose instead of just using a simple driver library like MongoDB? And that's because, along with just allowing us to create connections to the database and making queries, Mongoose allows us to do a lot more by defining these model objects, which help in schema validation and query abstraction. And that's the reason why we'll be using Mongoose throughout our project. Let's go ahead and see how we can use Mongoose to connect to our MongoDB Atlas instance. And for that, let's go back to VS Code. And here in our project, we'll create a sample JavaScript file called mongo test.js. And then we'll go ahead and install the package Mongoose into our project. So in the terminal, I'll say npm install mongoose. Now, while we wait for the package to install, let's go back to our Atlas dashboard where we'll again click on connect, and this time instead of connecting to Compass, we want to select the option connect to your application. We'll click on this. By default, the driver is set to Node.js, and all we need to do here is copy this connection string so that we can access the clustered databases. So we'll copy this, go back to our project and save this string under a variable called connection string. Now you can also see that Mongoose has been installed on our system and the current version that we're running is 6.4. Now our connection string needs the values for username and password. So instead of using double quotes, we'll convert this into a template literal by using the backtick notation. And let's go ahead and also create two new variables for username and password. So you might remember for external use, I created a username by the name user, and this was the password we generated. We'll access the same values here inside our string literal by using the $sign notation, and same thing with password where we'll pass the password variable in the string. Now a string is ready. The next thing that we need to do is import the mongoose library. So we'll say const mongoose is equal to require mongoose. Now the function that this mongoose instance exposes for us to connect to a MongoDB instance is called the connect method. So here on VS Code we'll just say mongoose.connect, and as you can see here in the documentation of the function 2, it takes in a string value as the connection URL, which we will pass by the key URI, and it can also take some additional options which we won't be passing at this point of time. And as a return response, it returns a promise whose type is mongoose. So let's pass our connection string to the mongoose.connect function, and since this is a promise, we'll use the .then notation to handle when the promise has been successfully resolved. So in the callback function, I'll just pass a simple console log that connection was successful. And there might be a case where we are not able to successfully connect to the database. In that case, we want to catch the error and at least see what went wrong. So we'll console log the error object. Let's try to run this little connection script on our Node.js environment. So here in the terminal, I'll say node mongo test.js and hit an enter. And as you can see, we're seeing a connection was successful log on our Node.js server. Now, one thing you'll notice here that we cannot type any other command on the terminal, and that's because the current connection is still active. To force the exit of the connection, I'll have to hit the buttons Control C. Now let's see what happens when we pass an incorrect password. So as a password value, I'll just store some dummy string, rerun the script, and this time, as you can see, we got the error log back, which basically says that bad auth authentication failed. And this happened because we passed a dummy password. Let's revert our changes and run the script again. And we can now create a successful connection. So that was basically it for this video. We understood what is an ODM and how we can use the Mongoose ODM library to connect to our MongoDB instance.